Hi guys, how's it going? So today I just received a package with my first receiver and transmitter from FlySky from bankgood.com, and what I'm holding in my hand is the new X6B receiver, which is supposed to connect to this transmitter, which is the FSI6X. One of the problems that I immediately found out was that the cable that it comes with for the PWM is a little tricky to connect to your ESC and your servos. It basically comes with just one cable that has all the different cables, only one pair of cable that comes with the signal plus and minus, and all of the other cables are basically just signal, which I believe is great if you're connecting it to a flight control to your drone. But since I want to connect it to a simple plane, just like one ESC and just a couple of servos, then there is no way to directly do that without some kind of a transformer converter. So here's what I came up with. Now let me first show you that why you can't connect them. First of all, they're both female, so there's no way to plug them into each other. So what I actually came up with was to use one of those pinouts this is from a Arduino Mini that goes on the side like this, like there are two lines of pins there. So instead of using it directly, focus. What I've done is I shifted the plastic on this one. I shifted it to the center. So now what you can do, and I'll show you how I shifted it in a second, but what you can do now is basically take your transmitter and connect it to the first three like this. And now what you can do is take your speed control ESC, too many cables here, and connect it to it just like that. Actually the other way around. Make sure that white connects to white, red is in the center, and black's on top. Okay, so connect it just like that. Alright, and now you will be able to at least test your ESC with the receiver. You won't be able to connect anything else to it since there is no way to connect anything else. I mean, you still need power, the plus and minus. But we'll deal with that in a moment. But for right now, I'll show you that this setup is working. And here's my motor. So what I'm going to do is basically connect the LiPo battery and making sure nothing's touching the motor. Alright, so we got this sound, and we have this LED at the bottom here, which is basically telling us that it's working, but there's nothing connected to it. So now I'm going to turn on the transmitter, and I'm gonna move this channel all the way to the left, because this is the actual channel that the motor is hooked up to, and there's no way to change it as of right now. And as I begin to release it, the motor there you go. The motor is starting to spin. Okay, and if I push it the other way, it goes even faster. So I'm going to turn it off now. So you can see that this setup is actually working, which is great. And now we need to figure out a way to break these into a series of three and somehow connect them to each other so we can create this converter. So let me just show you how I offset the plastic into the center on those pins. Basically the way you can do it is by using any kind of metal, like I'm using those tweezers, and you put your nail at the bottom of the plastic like that, and then you push on top of it, and as you can see, you can very easily offset it. Okay, so you basically do it one by one, and you should have no problem doing all of them just like that. And one of the other things that you can do, which I later found out, was using one of those jaw locking pliers, because you can set the distance at which they lock, and then you can and then you can adjust it by turning this bolt at the bottom. So that's very easy to make them all uniform. Is basically the same idea. You put the bottom at the plastic, and then as you squeeze, you get the plastic to be in the center. I mean, you have to manually center it, but at least you know that all of them will be uniform. Okay, just like that. And I've already done this this part where they're all centered, kind of. And I'm now just going to break them into series of groups of 3. So it's very easy to break. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I think I'll be fine with 5 for now. So all we need to do now is basically figure out a way to combine them together into just like one whole converter, maybe just like that. Okay, so it turns out that they don't need to be all in the center, because when I tested this, one of the things that you would find out is that these plugs here on the receiver don't have the metal part in them, so there's no point in having these bottom ones go all the way in into nothing, because they don't hold anything. So you can leave the bottom two more to the side, that is going to go either into your servo or the ESC, and the top one, only the top one can be in the center, because it's the only one that's going to hold on to the one that's coming from the receiver, just like that. Okay, so what that also helps us with, apart from having more metal for the servo to hold on to like that, the other thing that it will help us with is that we'll be able to more easily connect the minus and the plus alongside all of the pinouts, and I'll show you that in a minute if you don't understand it. You still need only one that has all of them in the center. That's for the master one. So basically the one that has all the cables going to it, the signal, the power, the plus and the minus. You need all of them to be in the center. So this will be the only one, probably the first one, that will have all the pinouts connected, and then the others will be soldered to each other on the back end. And I'll show you that in a minute. And I end up using 6 instead of 5, just so I can utilize all of my channels. Alright, so what I basically did here was to connect the master one, the one with all the pins in the center, with the next one that has only the bottom two, only the top one in the center, and then the bottom two are offset onto the right. And I basically glued them together with just one drop of super glue. And what I'm going to do now is continue to stack the rest of the other pins next to each other, just like that, with more super glue. I'm just going to do it one by one. So I've got my super glue here, and I'm going to do the other set of pins. What I'm basically going to do is very lightly touch it, just like that. You can barely see the glue. Actually, that's plenty. Okay, and I'm going to take the next one, make sure that the last two short pins are on the bottom, and I'm going to place it right next to it, just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and test it now. Connect the first one, the master, and then all of the other ones, making sure that the channel is the very top one. Alright, so what I've done here is I attempted to solder it, to solder the center ones, and what basically happened is that it's extremely difficult to solder because it's so tiny, and because it's so easy to melt the plastic. All I was able to accomplish was to basically displace the pin because the plastic was melting right here on the side. And this was only the first pin, which is supposedly the easiest one, and then how would I go about soldering the rest would be it's a mystery to me. So what I did was something else. I basically used that copper wire to just run it through all of the pins without even them being soldered, and then just stretched it because it's zigzagging, and when you pull on one side, the wire is basically always pulling against the pin. So this is working great, and I can actually show you with the voltmeter, the digital meter, that it works just like it's expected to. Basically we need to shorten all of the middle, and you can see here that when I check the first one and the last one, I get a 0, and all of the pins are actually shortened. Which is exactly what we need. And since I already done the center one because it was a little bit more difficult to do, I'm going to show you how I did it with the bottommost line. And the way you do that is you take the copper wire, and you use a lighter to melt the outer shield, just like that. And it changes its color. I doubt that you'll be able to see it in the video, but it basically changes color, and it's not as shiny anymore. It's like this dull color. It cannot even focus on that wire. Anyways, so the next thing you need to do is you start from the other end. So we're going to connect this side, but what we need to do is start from the other side, and this is because otherwise it's too difficult to make the wire connected to the first pin. So basically what we need to do is start twisting the wire like this, only around the first one. So we're gonna make one loop just like that. I don't know if you can see the loop. Okay, there it is. So that's a loop, and I'm holding the a piece of the wire with my thumb all the way on this side, which we're going to trim later. But we're starting off from this side so that it's easier for the next step, which is to run the wire like this, and then we're going to zigzag. So push with your finger against the pin, and then take on to the next one. And now you can see we're starting to, I don't know if you can see that, we're starting to zigzag. The wire is going left, right, so now we're gonna do right on this one. Oh, you can use your thumb to push it against it. Okay, there we go. Pull up. There you go. Alright, and now you can, now's the time where you pull as much as you can on this wire so that it pushes itself against each pin, and you could probably end it here, but and it's still going to be sufficient, but just in case, what I do is I make a full turn around this last one, the last pin, and I do it one more time in the opposite direction, so the zigzag is now going to switch. It's really hard. Let me try to zoom in here. Yeah, much better. Okay. So if it's coming off, sometimes it's gonna come off. Just put it back on and push it down with your thumb or with your nail, just like that, and then keep pulling on it. So it's gonna get back into the channel. Alright, I'm actually doing this one straight on the camera. I'm looking through the camera right now, just so I can see what you're looking at. Alright. Oh, all the way back. There you go. So make sure you always have a checkpoint by using your thumb to push on it. And now when we pull, it's going to straighten itself. Alright. So that's what you're going to end up with. And now on the last one, it's a little tricky, but you have to be pulling all the time just to make sure that there's tension on that last pin and all the way up on the other pins as well, because they're all zigzagging. Is to just make sure you pull on the wire with this finger, and with your thumb make a full loop around the last pin, just like that. Okay, and now we can go back all the way to the front one, because when you go back and forth between the pins, when it got stuck right on top of it, it's probably the most difficult part. When you do that, now it's secure. It doesn't have, now you can let go, and it's secure. And if you don't want it to be on the front, you can trim it. You can then just cut it right here. And I've done actually a couple of loops on the first one, but I'm gonna trim some of that because we don't really need it. This is just like a little bit of excessive here, and we don't want that to touch any of the other pins around it. So I'm gonna trim that to make sure that it doesn't touch anything else. Same with this one, and then we can probably use super glue just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere, just like on the side over here, just like a drop of super glue to secure the line. And what I can do now is, because it's we just did this one, I can use the voltmeter to make sure that this one is also working. Yep, seems to be working just fine. It's very difficult to third pin, this one's working, so all of the pins are working just fine. Let me check against the top one just to make sure that they're not shorted anywhere where they're not supposed to be. Okay, so it seems to be working just fine. Alright, okay, so I've already connected the ESC and a servo to this new converter, if you want to call it a converter. And as you can see, I'm using the power. The power is coming from the ESC. Basically 12 volts is coming from the LiPo. The ESC has a BEC that converts the power to 5 volts or something like that. So it comes into the last two pins and it's powering the receiver, and then the receiver itself, or actually the ESC, is also powering everything that's hooked onto the red and blue, red and black line. So with my first test, I just did my first test and it appears to be working, and I'll show you here. This is the servo, which is working nicely, and I had to change a couple of different pins here to line up against the ESC, and it turned out to be the yellow cable to get it to be on this channel here that's on this stick. So if I begin to increase the variable here, at some point it's going to start spinning. You can increase it or decrease it. It's probably a good idea to keep a finger on it, just in case. That's full speed. And it starts running somewhere from the middle, I think. And this could be due to how it's set up. Maybe I should look into how to start it from the very bottom instead of from the center. Something to look into. But I'm very happy with the fact that this thing is working, and I can now use all my servos and hook them up, and it's probably going to work just fine. And as you can see, you don't even have to have anything against the where the power is coming from, and it's still working because the last two are grounded horizontally. Here you go. Alright, that's it.